Okay, so the Game Awards announced their nominations yesterday. I made a video talking about the fact that I actually really respect it. I think that they did a pretty decent job at representing what gamers actually liked. I feel like this hasn't always been the case, and people were really afraid that maybe Dragon Age was going to win Game of the Year, even though it just wasn't one of the top tier games that was praised. So many other great games like Wukong, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor, Astrobot, Helldivers, and Space Marine 2 that were just praised by gamers unanimously. And I wanted to talk about Space Marine 2 for a couple of reasons. For one, someone mentioned in the comment in my video yesterday that they felt like Space Marine 2 probably should have been nominated. And also, I've been covering a little bit of Warhammer stuff lately. I'm a pretty decently, I would say, I'm like a level, I'm like, what would I say? I'm like a level 45 Warhammer nerd. Like, I'm not, like level 60. I'm not running around like poning noobs or nothing. Like, I'm in the thick of it. I played Warhammer a little bit when I was a kid, and I've been getting into it a little bit recently. Actually, let me just show you a bit of what I got going on here. Let me just take this. So these are my Space Marines. I've been painting them this year for the first time in like 15, 20 years. I decided to get really into it. I've been having a blast painting them. I also have some books I've been reading a bit. I did a review on the channel for them. I would say the books are kind of hit or miss. It's definitely, the part I like about, Warhammer the most is for sure just like zoning out, putting on a podcast and just painting a bit. But I also played Space Marine 2, and by golly gee whiz, that game was awesome. It was so much fun. I would say for me, it's one of my absolute like game of the years. The only reason though that I would say maybe it's not quite game of the year for me personally is just that I'm a huge Final Fantasy VII fan, and I haven't played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but I could see that beating it out for me. But just in the conversation in general, like should Space Marine 2 be on that list of nominations? I actually think that it shouldn't. And hear me out. Why I think it shouldn't be is because so in the Olympics, there's something where they do this kind of two-tier system when they like grade gymnastics, right? You probably all are huge gymnastics fans, where they grade like the difficulty of what they're doing, what they're choosing to do, and then they grade like the execution of it, right? So it's like someone could do a somersault, and they did a 10 out of 10 somersault, but someone did a double backflip, gainer twisty thing, and they didn't even do it as well as that person did the somersault. But it's like, okay, well, but your somersault's not very difficult. It's not like the cap on it isn't as high as like other things you could have done. And I'm not using this as a knock for Space Marine, that like Space Marine also should have had like mini games, a fishing simulator, shouldn't also have had player housing and multiplayer, and shouldn't have selling skins and battle passes and pay. Like, it doesn't need every aspect of a game. Like Space Marine 2 was a very focused experience. They were a third-person shooter set in this world. They were true to the source material. They were sincere in their delivery. The story was pretty decent, and the action was really fun to play. The music was amazing. The lore just kind of sprinkled in everywhere was so much fun. So many Easter eggs for real Warhammer fans. And it was so open and welcoming to people that never played Warhammer before, that just thought this was like a StarCraft ripoff or something, right? But I think they did a great job. But when we're talking about Game of the Year, I do think that we have to understand that there is a cap on some games where and a lot of the times RPGs are going to be, nominated for Game of the Year. Not always, but a lot of the times. Because a game like an RPG that's an open world game that has a bunch of different systems, that is just really expansive, that's long, that has to have the voice acting, the writing, and also the good gameplay, and also like the complexity and depth. It's like, if all of those things are going to be considered and you nail all of them, I do think that should be considered for Game of the Year for the community, in a way that if a focused smaller game maybe shouldn't be, right? But then you say, hey, Genji, what about Astrobot? Astrobot's on there. It's kind of a smaller scale game. Or what about Balatro, whatever the hell that is? And like, first off, I haven't played either of those games, and like maybe I don't agree that those should be on there, but I would say that there should be room for games like that on the Game of the Year list when they are so simple but yet so surprising that they just blew up everyone's expectations, and that they maybe have like a depth or like a level of just like fun and ingenuity there that you weren't expecting in a way that makes the game so surprising that maybe it does deserve to be on there. And I would imagine that's what like those games are on there for. I think. I wonder if, like, did Brothers win? I think there was, like, some games. Here, let me look it up real quick. It Takes Two won. Like, that's one that, like, I'm like, it shouldn't be nominated, probably. Like, that. I didn't play it, but I'm just like, okay, the other ones that won, Last of Us Part 2, Elden Ring, and Baldur's Gate. I'm like, yeah, those make sense. It seems like It Takes Two. That was like a couch co-op kind of fun game that was surprising and quirky and interesting, and had like a good narrative, you know, and like good on them. I feel like it's good for those types of games to be nominated. Like Balatro this year, I'm excited that that's nominated, because like I would like to go check that out. I think this is also a platform for people to or for the Game Awards to highlight games that are maybe underrepresented, maybe games that like you wouldn't necessarily have heard of, because everyone's heard of Space Marine and Call of Duty and Final Fantasy VII, but not everyone's heard of Balatro, right? So I do think it's really cool. You know, the Oscars will do the same type of thing, right? They'll nominate, you know, some like more indie obscure like things for categories because it gives them because they really are good. They're genuine good. Anyways, I think you get what I'm saying. So I would say like Space Marine, I would say that I think if there was another game added to this list of Game of the Year, I think Space Marine 2 should be on it, because I think that it kind of is on that cusp of like, it is maybe a little bit of a smaller scope of game that maybe did surprise people and was like surprisingly like just well made, well executed, and it did kind of harken back. Like Space Marine 2 really like reawakened some, you know, like Gears of War, you know, enthusiasts, you know, Halo players, like there's this genre of like spaceman, marine, you know, alien fighter like game that we haven't really had very much of lately. And like Space Marine reminded us that we love those types of games, and it was like really a cool nod to to all of us, to to people like me that loved those types of games. You know, even like Mass Effect. You know, Mass Effect was a great big sprawling RPG, but I liked the third person cover shooter kind of Mass Effect game. This isn't Space Marine's not really a cover shooter, but still, I don't feel like we've had a good like sci-fi shooter game in a while. And maybe I'm wrong. Leave me a comment of a game that I'm missing right now. I'm sure I'm wrong, but I think that it's fine that Space Marine 2 wasn't nominated. I think it's a great game. I think you should play it. I hope it wins Best Action Game. I hope it does get the recognition that it deserves in some type of a way. But it would. I understand that like Metaphor, you know, Black Myth Wukong, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I feel like these are games that have huge scope, a huge difficulty to nail and get them done right and the way that they did. And I think so, like their difficulty is higher than Space Marine. And on top of that, they executed really well. They did a great job. For the most part, I mean, honestly, I haven't played every single one of those games, so I couldn't tell you, but it seems like they've done an amazing job for a lot of those games. So yeah, those are my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think. Do you think that Space Marine 2 should have been nominated for Game of the Year? I think it easily could have been, and I wouldn't have batted an eye. But I also think that the games that are on the list absolutely deserve it too. And if there was an extra game, it would have been Space Marine 2, in my opinion. But yeah, that is that. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Like, subscribe, leave me a comment. I want to try to make more videos like this, just kind of talking about stuff that's on my mind. So yeah, until then, I'll see you guys later.